It is once again a new month, and with the arrival of March, we have, of course, Screen's monthly preview of all the cinematic splendor that will be arriving in theaters for your entertainment needs. And there is a lot of movies, as March has no fewer than 5 Fridays in it, meaning that there's a whole extra week worth of films to talk about. We're slowly building up to the summer season, as not 1, not 2, but 3 of those movies are big budget action films. But to find out what they are, you'll have to keep watching. So without further ado, let's get started with Friday, March 2nd. The first Friday of the month also sees the year's first CGI family film hit the screen, as Universal bets heavily on the Dr. Seuss brand with their release of The Lorax, featuring the voices of Zac Efron and Danny DeVito. This really looks like it's probably going to skew on the younger side of the CGI comedy spectrum, but hopefully it's good nonetheless. I personally want to see it come out just because I'm really tired of that Lorax pre-movie turn off your cell phones bit. Also out that same weekend is Project X, a kinda skeezy looking high school party movie produced by Todd Phillips, director of The Hangover. Phillips is, of course, somewhat great at "I can't believe that just happened" comedy, and it certainly looks like there's an epicness of scope here that might be entertaining. Certainly, it's a good counter-programming release to have it come out on the same day as The Lorax, because you cannot imagine the audience for those two films is going to overlap at all. In limited release this weekend, Tim and Eric's billion-dollar movie finally hits theaters after its VOD premiere, as does Being Flynn, an indie drama featuring Paul Dano and Robert De Niro. The next weekend has one of the year's biggest question marks coming out, as Disney's huge gamble on John Carter finally arrives. All you have to say is that it's from the director of WALL-E, and I'm automatically interested, but none of the trailers or footage that have been released yet really makes it look all that exciting. With a budget that quite possibly exceeded $250 million and another 100 or more spent on advertising, people are already talking about this as possibly the biggest bomb of the year based on audience awareness tracking. I'm sure it's an interesting movie, but Disney has to be worried. Luckily, its competition is on the smaller side, as the horror thriller remake The Silent House arrives in a wide release. Interestingly enough, it's a movie that is entirely told in a single take, theoretically without any cuts, although you have to imagine that there are some hidden cuts in there somewhere, as in Hitchcock's Rope. Early word isn't overly positive, and I haven't seen any advertising for the film at all, but we'll see if it finds some kind of audience, if only for its unusual technique. Also debuting this week is the absolutely horrid-looking 1,000 Words, in which Eddie Murphy is a liar who gets his comeuppance when a tree is planted in his backyard, and if he talks, the leaves fall off, which means blah blah blah. It looks like another opportunity for Eddie Murphy to not make anyone happy, which of course means he signed up for it immediately upon reading the script. In limited release this weekend, we have Friends with Kids with Kristen Wiig and John Hamm, and Salmon Fishing in the Yemen, which I have seen a lot of trailers for a film that's not getting a wide release. It looks kind of charming, but maybe that's just because everyone's speaking with British accents. On Friday, March 16th, the only wide release is the R-rated 21 Jump Street, which had one of the most expectations-shattering trailers of last year. God only knows how I'll feel about the completed film, but it looks like it'll at least not be one of those tired TV show movie reboot things that no one winds up caring about. Could be bad, could be good, but it certainly looks like it's trying to be a bit out there. If that doesn't float your boat, you do have the option of tracking down a limited release that weekend, including Will Ferrell's Spanish-language comedy Casa de Mi Padre, and the Jason Segel, Ed Helms indie dramedy Jeff Who Lives at Home. On Friday, March 23rd, there's another solo wide release, as every other studio saw the Hunger Games release date and decided not to even try opening another film against it. Having read these books myself, I'm not entirely sure how they're going to change them to make them fit into the PG-13 rating, as they are surprisingly violent. Still, it is a big production, and if you'd like to see children kill each other for 100 minutes, this one might be right up your alley. Of course, if you're in the mood for something a bit more sedate, you might want to check out The Raid in limited release. It's supposed to be one of the best action films that come along in years, and created quite a stir when it started airing in film festivals last year. If that doesn't float your boat, you can also track down Break, which stars Stephen Dorff in a movie that completely isn't a copy of Buried, despite the fact that Dorff is trapped in a very small space for almost the entire movie. Friday, March 30th is the last weekend of the month and features 2 fantasy films squaring off against each other, with the first of those being the awful-looking Mirror Mirror. Every time I see the trailer for this film, I have no idea what anyone involved in the production was thinking. It's not funny, it doesn't look very interesting visually, and of course that means it will probably make $800 million. This competition for the weekend, though, is Wrath of the Titans, featuring slightly more Sam Worthington hair than its predecessor, Clash of the Titans, and probably slightly more Titans. In limited release for the week, the major film is Goon, the hockey comedy that features Sean William Scott in a frighteningly accurate-looking Liev Schreiber as hockey enforcers that wind up beating the shit out of everyone else on the rink, and of course, each other. So, wow, that is actually a lot of movies coming out in the month of March. The only question is, do you actually want to see any of them? If so, pick the single movie you think you couldn't do without and let us know what it is in the comments below. Thanks, and we'll see you back here next month.